Web3.tv.
Hello everyone, welcome back to another episode of the Traders Brawl podcast. I am so excited for my very, very special guest today, Matt Hagger, which we're going to get into today. If you are new, welcome, and if you have been with us, thank you for staying with us and for following our page. We are here to interview new guests every week on fitness, financial freedom, and how to maintain a work-life balance. And today's topic is going to be on entrepreneurship, creativity, reimagining education, and Matt Hagger is our guest. Matt, how are you doing today?
Pleasure. It's great to be here. I'm great, thank you.
Thanks for being on our show.
Pleasure.
Let me read to the audience your bio.
Okay.
So, to kick off, Matt is an inventor, creator, entrepreneur, investor, has been in technology since he was 18 years old and building products from the age of 12. As founder of the UK's biggest venture studios for 25 years, eMan, Matt lived in California to launch the world's first photo and video sharing app. We need to get into that.
Yeah.
Driven by his belief in the power of creativity, Matt is now planning on a decade in the Gulf region where he is building tools and services that he hopes will shine a light on an alternative education system based on creativity, kindness, and human development. Through innovative AI and blockchain experiences, he wants to contribute towards reshaping lifelong learning from birth to adulthood. That's a great ambition to have.
Yeah, man. This is it's a big mission, but hopefully I can contribute.
Wow. Well, so tell us how just give us some backstory. How are you in Dubai? From what was your previous life before being here?
Yeah, so I came to Dubai in 2020.
Okay.
During the pandemic. I found it to be a hugely welcoming place, open, safe. I loved the fact that I could be world-centric in my outlook. I always like to create in places where I'm surrounded by different cultures, different nationalities. And I just loved the feeling I had being here. Right. Sometimes for me, everything is about like how I can imagine and create around the environment that I place myself in, whether it feels fertile for the ideas that I want to work on. And I was just sort of brewing on starting to get more serious around sort of education and TaleTree and all the international schools in Dubai, the way that everybody sort of collaborates together really was inspiring to me. And I felt like I could build something meaningful. Whether I was going to execute it here, it was more that like I felt that the Gulf region offered a new, imagination triggers for my creative mind.
Really interesting. Really. Yeah. Speaking about the education system, schooling system, I want to know your story about the education system, of how it made you feel as a kid. And you've spoken as well about feeling unseen, like your intelligence didn't fit the system. Could you share any thoughts on this and memories?
Of course. Well, I remember growing up as a child and being hugely imaginative, like all kids, right? Because if you take a 4 or 5-year-old child, they are genius creators. They're living in this imaginative world. They're playing with the blocks. They act like founders. They're fearless. Little toddlers, they get up, they fall, they get back up, they fall, they get back up.
They don't think about the future.
It's the trial and error, very mindful, right? And very sort of curious and just learning. Their brains are evolving. So obviously, all kids are like that. But I feel like I continue to want to like develop on that trajectory. But I do remember that shift from going to elementary school, from kindergarten. So the first school I went to for just 1 year was actually sort of a privately educated school in the UK with my parents. My parents split up when I was 5, but for 1 year before I went to a public school, I was at a private school. I remember the first day, they put me in a uniform, very smart, a little cap, a tie, the shorts, the blazer, everything like Hogwarts, basically. And I remember walking in, looking around and seeing everybody looking exactly like me. And thinking to myself, well, I'm not like them. I'm unique. I don't want to be dressed like them. And then obviously, as the elementary school journey continued, I found it hugely stifling. I found sort of this idea that, you know, you had a teacher at the front of the class telling you what to do and how to do it, but not giving you enough depth as to why you were doing it. And also the lack of being able to sort of be curious and adventurous around learning. So I felt hugely stifled, and I couldn't really apply myself at all, and it caused a lot of sort of problems for me. And it got worse as I got older and
Did you ever drop out?
into high school. I never dropped out, but I got a lot of ridicule for the fact that I used to spend a lot of time switching off from what I was being taught. So
Switching off meaning dreaming big.
Dreaming big. Most of like when I was at school, most of the curriculum was based around memorization. So you would have a teacher telling you about something.
True.
And you would have to memorize that information in the hope that you would become knowledgeable on it so that you could regurgitate it and get graded on your ability to remember what you were being told. Whether it was right or wrong was irrelevant. It was just these are the facts. Swallow it and get a stamp A, B, C, D, or E.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, for a minority of humanity, that curriculum doesn't work. So what tends to happen is a minority who are the most disruptive and unfocused, who are told that, you know, they don't apply themselves, they're not focused, they're not going to make anything of their lives. All these narratives that are thrown upon people like me create this lack of self-esteem when we, you know, there is this sort of superpower sort of within that wants to get out. But because education systems are predominantly industrialized in the sense that it's a job creation treadmill because society needs workers in order for an economic system to thrive, a nation to thrive, you have to create a structure. The problem is there is a minority of kids that are in the dreamers and doers category, the entrepreneurs, the dissidents, the misfit category that don't actually want to form part of this funnel. The majority of people are happy to memorize information and do what they're told. I mean, we're all creative geniuses, but some people will follow protocol easier than others. The ones that don't are deemed to have special needs. And my word, are those needs special? They need a team to manage them and prime them for greatness. Unfortunately, schools don't have the department for the kids that have those special needs. So, I mean, I was ridiculed at school for being a dreamer and somebody that didn't focus. And I guess, you know, I would drift off in class and the teacher would shout my name and I'd sort of wake up and classmates would also see that I was far from able to follow what was being told to me, and the ridicule would ensue, and it was really hard.
How have your parents been an influence on you? So your father used to take you out for West Ham games.
Yeah.
Did that inspire any creativity in you, and that shape your understanding of education?
Yeah. So my father, I'm not sure was as academic as the majority of people either. He passed away actually in November last year.
You mentioned this.
Yeah. So I, you know, dedicating this to him, and he was a huge influence on my entrepreneurial journey actually, because he could see that although, you know, he wasn't, he encouraged me to do well at school, but he could also clearly see that my brain was bigger than that curriculum of forced academia. So he would utilize my creativity actually and help me. So we would, when I was growing up, like every weekend I would be in London because my dad grew up in his teenage years in East London, and my mother lived in Cambridgeshire. But at the weekends, I would be going down to London with my father, and we would travel all over the country watching soccer, football. The club is West Ham in East London. They're a great,
huge.
They're a great club. They're a great club.
Stratford.
Exactly. Olympic Park. Yeah.
Huge.
Exactly. Well, we're actually from Upton Park, which is where our spiritual home is, and we moved in 2016 to Stratford. But you know, that's another story. I love that club. I'd love to own that club, you know. That's like a secret ambition.
Yeah.
It's like the material ambition.
Right,
I would love to own that club with Web3 and everything, the potential there. But anyway, we used to travel, Dad and I, and we made every West Ham game into a form of learning. Around West Ham, I learned geography, history, literature, statistics, mathematics, like everything that you would traditionally learn through cookie cutter forced theory. We would literally get the map out, and I would work out where we were going. I would learn about the city that the opposition team were playing, who were playing. I would look at the league tables, memorize all the players, all the statistics, and you know, that really was a better education for me than traditional classroom boredom.
Right.
And I learned something quite profound around that, which is that interest-based learning and learning around your curiosity and thinking critically when you learn, and learning with passion about something that is meaningful and real life can like open up the mind and the soul to a more meaningful learning journey.
I've got a challenging question for you on this, and I like to play devil's advocate all the time. Some people tend to believe that the world is a simulation, and there are higher forces that are trying to control us from reaching our full potential. And watching football, entertainment, things like football, boxing, whatever, TV, one has argued that it is a form of distraction because you're sitting and you're watching. You're not doing. You're here to just watch the game being done. And it's meant to be entertaining, but also a distraction from you reaching your full potential. What would be your opinion on that? Do you agree? Do you disagree?
Participating versus following is a form of distraction. There is no doubt it's a form of distraction.
Right.
I mean, sport is like any brand, right? Like it's, you know, people who follow football clubs, it's like a religion, right?
True.
It's like
your religion.
You're giving your time, and you're giving your finances, and you're giving your attention to a brand. And that brand is giving back community, commonality, fellowship, memories. It's an exchange. Your time, resources, and finance for a product. So, I would say that I would say that you know, sport though in a post AI era is going to become more and more valuable as a commodity that can be attained through access. Right? Like, think about it. Like, in real life experiences where humans are competing against one another, it's real, you can see it in front of your eyes, it's going to be so valuable. Because we're moving into a world where you're going to have robots doing a lot of the automation, a lot of the productivity, right? So humans won't be competing against each other on that level, right? And you're going to have a lot of media that is essentially just totally fabricated through large language models, right? and training of AI and all the technology that creates all the movies and all the media and everything, it's going to be like impossible to decipher between what's real and
possible. We might be even be seeing cyborgs.
Exactly.
Humans, half robots.
Look, so essentially, that's why I believe that humans' desire to experience humans competing against one another as a spectacle will be of great value. And if you own a sports entity, if you own a football club, a brand, if you own one of the top 20 football clubs in the world, right? And West Ham United are one of those based on turnover. If you look at the top 20, you'll find that West Ham are 14th in terms of turnover. I think we turned over 300 million euros last season, which is huge. We were in the Europa Conference League.
And the majority come from ticket sales.
It comes from TV. Ticket sales. So,
TV.
Right. So ticket sales are a minority. If I run a football club, I would ensure that in the future, ticket sales will be huge, and this is where the loyal, passionate fan is under great threat, because the demand for being inside these stadiums, as what we've just said with AI and everything, this seeking of real experiences that you can see in front of your eyes, like watching a tennis match at Wimbledon or watching a sportsman or the Super Bowl. I mean, it's going to be like so much in demand, because we'll be living in this fabricated environment of machines and fake media, right? So if you own a sports brand where you have the ability to sell the rights to what's happening there, you're building this global entity, whereas, like now we have access to information so freely. These football brands can become so valuable. And I do believe that, owning a sports team in 2025, you're going to see insane upswing and an insane upswing in the valuation of these properties, these brands. The potential are huge. I mean, you have the big brands like Barcelona, Real Madrid, and the big NFL teams and the baseball teams, but there's the potential to really accelerate through Web3 and all the innovation that's going to come in crypto and blockchain, and
potential is huge.
It's huge.
But see, we need to make a distinction between being an owner and being a consumer. The owner profits off of the consumer.
Right, it's their dream. You're just contributing to their dream at the end of the day.
Yeah.
Someone said it's either you follow your dreams or you're a slave to someone else's. You've got two options.
Yes.
But again, that's a little bit harsh, because it doesn't always have to be that way. Your dream can be somebody else's dream. And when I build startups and create companies, I try and build a culture where everybody feels like, they are part of that dream. So, hiring people and building teams, you need to foster that feeling that, if you're not passionate about the problem that you're solving in the company that you're working for, not just the part you play in solving that problem, i.e. being a lawyer or an accountant or a product manager, but if you're actually passionate about the actual problem, then it's good. Then you're in alignment.
Yes.
But so I don't, so you can work for somebody, but as a fan, yes, you are, your passion is being monetized.
Yes, correct. Your passion is being monetized.
We have a God-shaped hole, whether it's God or it's not. We have a yearning, right? Is it following a football team? Is it going to church every Sunday? We have a yearning for purpose, and we find it in the most obscure things.
Right. See,
the most unproductive things.
Most unproductive things. Here's what I'm trying to get at. So they monetize our attention as being a fan to go buy your ticket, be at the club, and see them in flesh. Great. You're eating hot dogs there. You're eating foods that are not necessarily good for you.
Yeah.
Your time is being monetized on television. Your phone, fake media is on the phone.
Yeah.
So is this not just another cog in the machine of distraction from you reaching your full potential? Why don't you work towards being an owner
I think
rather than a consumer?
Yes, but I think that's a little bit harsh with regards to in real life experiences. Only because when you go to an event like a sporting event, you get to take time out from other things. It's relatively mindful when you're watching something that's evolving and happening live. There's a sense of, mindfulness there. You're in the moment.
In the moment.
Watching, a spectacle unfold. I think that's good for the human brain in this modern world. And I think that's what drives demand.
Sure.
So distraction, yes, but a better form of distraction than drowning in reels 24/7.
But you could be drowning in reels of sports.
If it's live, but if it's just the best bits,
Yes.
and it's just cut,
There you go.
edited,
And I'm tapping into a soft side of yours. I love it. When did you realize you were highly creative? There must have been a moment in time where you said, you know what, I'm actually more creative than these people.
It's tough. I mean, essentially being misunderstood at school and throughout life, actually, I guess, has revealed to me that my brain operates on a level that is more common with a niche percentage of society. I guess.
Is that when you designed board games?
So my dad. So my father was a very creative guy as well.
Okay.
Slightly different to me, but like he had a passion for creating brands, coming up with ideas, and he ran a toy company, and he could see that I had a lot of ideas for things, and my brain was like a bee's nest, constantly moving from one idea to the next, and he needed to find a way to sort of help me sort of channel that creativity. So I used to help him with board games, and I loved creating board games, man.
New board games from scratch?
Yeah, from scratch, like
Wow.
like game mechanics around like entertainment properties. So my dad used to work. He used to produce board games for Disney and entertainment brands. And I would help him with game mechanics and working out like how to create different types of board games. But that process as a young child of being able to create board games, and that's one of the challenges we offer kids in TaleTree, because interestingly, if you set a challenge to any kid, design a board game, the output of that says a lot about who they are, because board games can be anything. So if you want to get an understanding of a person, of a kid, you just say like, come up with a board game, and they will essentially model it on what they care about, and if they're scientific or mathematical or artistic or they're like adventure, it all comes out in that board game. So that's a great thing for a school to do every year with kids, just like create a board game. But yeah, the board game journey was amazing. I remember I designed a football chart for my father for a World Cup, which ended up in a national newspaper as a supplement. Oh, wow. And yeah, my friends used to actually use it and pin it up on their bedroom wall. But like to be honest, nobody even knew that I created it, because like it was hard to convince people that I created stuff when I was a kid, because I used to live with my mom. I used to go and see my father every other weekend, and we'd have our own thing going on. And I lived a bit of a double life, quite frankly. And I did a lot of stuff with my dad. And then I went back and lived with my mom and went to school. And it was just in a small village. And it was, I honestly felt like I was living a double life. Wow. At times.
Now, speaking about life, let's move on to how you moved to Silicon Valley. Is that right? You worked in California. So basically, just to get to Silicon Valley, I'll explain what happened through the board games and the creative stuff. So I didn't know I was going to be I didn't know I was an entrepreneur until I built the desktop news alerts platform
when I was 20, during university, or just as I came out of university, with my first business partner, which was the reason E-Man Venture Labs was founded. So basically, I was on, as a student, dial-up internet, right? And trying to access the internet and causing my mum a lot of stress with building up a phone bill, because before broadband internet, you had to dial up, it would crackle, you would connect to the internet, it would load internet pages, and you'd be charged per minute.
Oh, wow.
You know, you're too old to even know about this, right?
Yeah.
So I was like, this is bad, and I keep dialing up to the internet to load web pages, and there's no new content being uploaded to these pages. So I'm going to create an app that alerts me every time that web page updates. And this is way before mobile, way before Twitter, way before...
You created software.
So it was called NetSorcerer. We got a patent. I got a funding from Cambridge University Science Park. I ended up building this prototype, and basically this ended up being used through broadcast media to alert sports fans of breaking news in real time that happened. And as a result of that piece of technology, which got adopted by a major broadcast media company, I founded E-Man Venture Labs in London, right? And that enabled us to help entrepreneurs hatch ideas from day zero. So the reason I wanted to mention that is that Silicon Valley comes 8 years after that, but for the first 8 years, we provided early stage founders with the tools and services and ideas to turn their notepad concepts into businesses. And it was a hugely exciting time for me as a creator. And we built a team of people, and we help companies that probably have, we started with founders working on napkin ideas that today probably employ in the UK thousands, probably 4,000 or 5,000 people. And those experiences of working with those founders really shaped my life in the early years of my life, and gave me so much inspiration and so much experience of failure, the persistence, what it takes to be an entrepreneur, like the truth behind founding a company, not the fake veneer glamorous side of entrepreneurship, right. The heartbreak of entrepreneurship.
Before we get to that, how did you monetize NetSorcerer?
So NetSorcerer would be monetized based on.
Hard, yeah.
No, so this was the thing, right? When I launched NetSorcerer, I had a big lack of understanding of venture capital, entrepreneurship, all of that kind of stuff. I didn't even know I was an entrepreneur. Right. I just tried to solve a problem. I came up with an idea, I invented a piece of software. That software had a lot of validity at that time in technology, because technology, the internet was in the early stages of its evolution, right? So I tried to monetize that software like I was monetizing a board game. I would build and ship the software and try and sell that software and the license to the entertainment companies that wanted to use it. Unfortunately, that's not the way to monetize software. We all know that. Software should be used, should be given away, and traction can be monetized through software as a service, through advertising. But because I was so young at the time, I was 21 at the time, I had no experience, no mentors, no access. I didn't even know what venture capital was back then. I was building it all myself, and it was extraordinarily hard to understand. But with the right mentors, with the right experience around me, things could have been very, very different. And it was a hard pill to swallow, because the company that ended up running with the initial intellectual property that I created, because I got a patent and I got funded through Cambridge University Science Park, ended up becoming a very, very valuable company that were acquired by Microsoft. So it was a huge hard pill to swallow.
Oh, I see.
But what it did is it gave me a lot of confidence in my ability to turn nothing into something, turn an idea into a product, test that product, gain product market fit, then build value around that idea, raise more capital. And that's how Eman Venture Labs became the company that spanned over 20 years. The companies that started at Eman have gone on to raise hundreds of millions of dollars. I'm not saying that we were instrumental in that, but we were there at day zero. When a founder came into our lab and we decided to work with them, they had nothing more than a sketch on a notepad. And we would sit down with them and we would conceive and create the prototype of their idea and help them add sort of value to that idea, turn it into a product, launch that product, take it out into the market and try and help that product gain traction and market fit. And the learnings from doing that have been incredible. And we actually we were based in Shoreditch in East London. When we moved into Shoreditch, we got this studio under the arches of the tube station in Shoreditch High Street. Well, nobody was building any startup stuff back then, but essentially this entire movement that became Silicon Roundabout in the East End of London kind of formed around this. I'm not saying that I was necessarily the first person there, but I cannot remember there being other startups or other incubators. I didn't even know what an incubator was. So essentially just inventing things as we were going along and being tagged entrepreneur or incubator as a result of the things that we did. Yeah.
Interesting. And then this led to, I mean, would you say that was a fail, a success? What was Net Sorcerer for you?
Oh, so Net Sorcerer was an incredible success in the sense that, I mean, it was a failure in the sense that I didn't sell the company for £100 million, but it was a huge success in the sense that taught me that execution, persistence, and effort, you can ideas chase people. What it taught me is that as a creative person, ideas chase people.
Yes.
They bang on the door of your mind and say, would you like to be the person that executes upon this idea, accept the idea or reject it? Because what happens if you reject it is then 5 years later, you see the idea that you had, and everybody has this moment where they go, oh my Lord, I came up with that idea 5 years ago. 10,000 other people did. Unfortunately, only the person brave enough to actually make themselves available to the universe to be used by that idea. Essentially, you're partnering with the idea. I don't actually believe that we own these ideas. I believe that the idea comes to us, and
we just tapped into that frequency.
I do believe that. I believe the idea comes to us, and it's up to us to accept. This is what can make entrepreneurship a lot easier. When you think to yourself, okay, like the idea has come to me, I am going to make myself useful to the universe and allow myself to be used to turn this idea into something. Because at the end of the day, the idea would outlive you. You're not going to be here forever. It's a moment in time. Accept the idea and let nature run its course.
Right.
People don't do that. They get overwhelmed when the idea comes. How am I going to execute this? How am I gonna, they're thinking about the end goal and not breaking it down into simple steps. So, yeah, I mean, look, the Net Sorcerer was a huge success because it was the first time that I actually took an idea, turned it into something, and let it go into the world and saw the potential of how big ideas can go, and that's why Eman became Eman.
Oh, wow.
We're an ideas lab. We help entrepreneurs
you turn ideas
dream big to products,
right? Into
and then turn products into companies. And we were a day zero launch pad for ideas, and we pre-seed companies that start at the beginning. We are always first on the cap table, meaning that when we partner with an entrepreneur, we were always the first in.
Right.
Literally, there's nothing comes before us.
Right.
It starts on a notepad. So it was hugely fulfilling. But then the trouble is with being a creative person is that yes, you want to add your creativity to entrepreneurs and founders, but at the same time, you have your own itch to scratch, you have your own ideas bubbling. And this is when a profound moment in 2007 happened, which ended up in me literally leaving E-Man,
So this is the
boarding a plane.
heartbreak moment.
Well, Net Sorcerer was to some degree, but I guess Scatter was a really incredible period of my life, if not the most incredible period of my life.
Let's unfold that. What happened at Scatter?
So, at the time, smartphones were in the infancy of their development.
What time era was this?
This was, I would have been in my sort of like early mid-20s. We had just received a feasibility study grant from the Department of Trade and Industry to work on a Bluetooth project to connect people using smartphones to this new technology called Bluetooth, right? And it was the only smartphones that were enabling us to conduct this were Microsoft smartphones. So I was working on this project, and I was thinking about mobile devices and the potential for mobile devices and cameras and location, and how what you have in your pocket is hugely powerful. And I guess I started brewing on an idea that, I know this sounds so rudimental now, but we're talking, you know, we're talking 2006. We're talking about 20 years ago, right?
Right.
I'm brewing on this idea that one day everybody will have a camera and access to location in their pocket.
Oh, okay.
And you can build applications around that.
Oh, wow.
And that idea that people could connect to one another through the lens of their camera was so profound that I decided that I needed to work on something that enabled that to occur. So scatter, meaning a moment in time, a single moment in time that comprises an image, 10-second video, and a location, in 2005 was a highly profound idea, given that iPhone didn't exist, Android didn't exist, smartphones in general didn't exist, cameras were not on phones at that time. So I decided that I was going to work on this. There was no sort of mobile user experience design where you could actually prototype anything. I had to use Adobe Paint and come up with a feed and work out how I was going to create a menu for the device. There was literally nothing. There was no sort of design toolkit.
No.
There was no sort of blueprint to follow. But I ended up embarking upon this crazy dream to put into the hands of the world an application that enabled people to share what they saw in that given moment as a utility that would help the world discover the world around them, which is very different to how people use phones today. When I started working on this venture, nobody could understand what I was trying to do.
This is before Instagram. This is before,
way before Instagram.
Facebook.
This was around MySpace and Facebook, yeah. Well,
So there was some...
This was about 3 or 4 years before Facebook launched a mobile app. This was before iPhone and Android. This was right in the early days. And like it was just at the very, very beginning, very, very beginning.
So when you say in their pocket, what were you trying to determine here?
So the idea was that, so when I obviously, I'm very disappointed with how people use smartphones today for capturing content, like personally. But that's another story. But when I was working out Scatter, I saw the world as a place where people could share truth based on where they were and what they could see in that moment, and they could become visual stewards of what was happening in the world through the lens of their.
So would it be a camera or would it be a mobile device?
It was a camera. It was a mobile phone. It was
a mobile phone.
So I was building an application for like the future of mobile, and the idea would be that Scatter allows people to share what they see.
I see. So you were building a software.
I was built
before the device even came out, which is an Android or iOS.
Yeah, and so we built an application for Nokia N95 and the Ovi store, which was an early. And I went to Adobe Max in San Francisco, and ended up presenting the concept to Adobe, and they were absolutely blown away because we used a technology called Flashlight, which combined with software called Java ME to create something quite unique. Anyway, to keep it relatively short, nobody could really understand what I was working on in the UK, and I realized that if I was going to have any chance of making this dream a reality, I'd have to leave the UK and I'd have to go to San Francisco, because I quickly learned that the risk capital and the propensity to back contrarian truths and like these moonshot ideas were happening over there.
They happen there. They don't happen in the UK.
Yeah, so no. Twitter and...
The UK, in my opinion, is too middle class, in my opinion.
I mean, the UK is, I can't say anything negative about it because I love the UK. I'm from the UK.
Like the weather?
Yeah, I mean, the weather's challenging. I've got to say, the weather's challenging. Look, the UK... and the startup ecosystem in the UK was hugely important to me. But when I landed in Silicon Valley, I actually felt like I was home.
This is where dreams...
I connected, I could breathe the potential and the optimism.
You could smell success.
I could. It was an incredible feeling. I remember when I went for the first time, it was just this openness that people had to collaborate with each other, this unrealistic sense of optimism where I'm carrying this prototype of Scatter around with me in the UK and everyone's going, that won't take off. How are you going to monetize that? No one's going to share photos publicly. That's an absurd idea. Photos are private. No one wants their public information broadcasted on the internet. You actually want to share your location with somebody, with the world. Nobody's going to want to do that. That's a privacy law. You're going to get shut down. All this stuff was being told to me. And I thought to myself, look, if I go to San Francisco, I'm sure people will understand like how big of an idea this is. Right. And they did. Things changed for me dramatically out there, and I had a lot of encouragement from a lot of people, and I ended up working with Samsung because at the time there were 3 operating systems. There was iOS, Android, and Samsung. Unfortunately, I chose the operating system that no longer exists. Yeah. But they supported me and they gave me funding and they gave me a stage to shine, and they allowed me to travel all around the world. They marketed the product, they pre-installed the application on a lot of their devices, but there was one big problem. Android was a bigger deal than Samsung, in the sense that obviously it's Google, open source OS, right? And it can obviously is compatible with any hardware. Samsung ended up dumping their native operating system and
to join,
and and also the problem is they couldn't get a carrier deal in the US with AT&T. So my app ended up getting distributed around Asia when I needed it to be distributed in the US, right? Pre-installed. However, I still did work with the Android team when there was just 6 people involved. So the G1 was the first Android device to be launched, and Android was acquired by Google as a separate entity. Android was actually its own
thing. Yeah, no.
It got acquired. There was a guy called Romain Guy who built the first user, the UI UX for Android 1, and there was like 6 people. I remember having access to the first Android developer kit and being on a VoIP call to an Android developer testing the camera API functionality for the first time. I was like developer number 7 to actually use an Android, use the Android SDK to capture a photo.
Wow.
It's and when I look back, it felt like nothing at the time. And this is because this is what happens with technology. Like, it felt like nothing at the time. But when I look back, like, that's quite an incredible thing. And when I had the first prototype of Scatter, I met Sergey Brin, the founder of Google, who took a massive interest in Android and Google Glass, which was the first.
Oh, yes.
Do you remember?
It became a flop, by the way.
Yeah, well, a lot of things did. A lot of things did. Being early.
Sometimes
this is the moral of the story with Scatter, with a lot of things. Being early
there's no product market fit.
Exactly.
Right.
So
what you described eerily sounds similar to an app that I've used and downloaded called Be Real. Have you heard of this app?
No.
So in the moment, unlike Snapchat, unlike Instagram, you can't edit your photos. You either take it and it uploads on the spot with a caption, or you don't take it at all.
That's Scatter.
And that's called Be Real. So you've just got an option to take, and there's no edit. There's no part. What you've described is literally Be Real.
So the reason why I thought Scatter was so important, I got it totally wrong. Okay, the reason I thought it was totally important, because I thought that the moment of upload, which at that time was creating feeds for people that were sharing photos, the moment of uploads provides no authenticity on when that image was captured, right? Whereas with Scatter, we took the metadata from the moment of capture, or the 10-second video clip, combined that metadata with the location that you were at, and stamped that on the server so that people could discover what happened at this location at 1:30 on June the 12th, 2015.
Snapshot.
It was a snapshot, right? And there's 2 things about that. First of all, it's organizing the media around time and space. Secondly, it's giving truth and authenticity, which brings us to a very, very important point about the future and giving people the ability to speak freely and speak in truth. That's all well and good. But if the content that's being uploaded and shared is fabricated, then it just adds to the confusion. I think we need a photo and video sharing service where the source of that media is verified as being taken at that time, at that location by that person. And if some of the owners of some of the big services, Meta, Elon, TikTok, Evan Spiegel, Snapchat, if they actually cared about truth and authenticity, this would exist, right?
Yes, of course.
You would be able to scroll an Instagram feed and it'd have a blue tick, meaning you actually did capture that moment at that time.
You know what this would do? This would revolutionize journalism. Journalism being at that moment, capturing this particular scene and uploading
That's the only reason why I created Scatter in 2005, to solve that problem. Little did I know how this problem is not monetizable. Because remember, how is the lazy way to monetize people's attention or distraction is to bombard them with addictive content.
Of course.
So that they just scroll and scroll
like
and
West
scroll.
Ham games.
Dopamine.
I got you there.
You did.
No, but seriously, this will revolutionize journalism, because journalists are contacted to verify their sources.
Yeah.
If you can verify on the blockchain, such as the blockchain,
Exactly.
that I was actually there at the scene, I captured this, I've seen the bomb, I seen this, this is real, you can use this, and I should be paid for my work.
We are giving a $1 trillion idea away here,
Yeah.
right now.
Right now.
Yeah.
Copyright. We're going to copyright.
There'll be 10,000 people working on this as soon as they saw
Don't
this.
worry, it's post-edit, so no one's watching this yet.
All right. But I'm telling you that is where it's going, right?
Yes.
And blockchain, and then the token to reward the creator for capturing this moment.
And being paid.
Look, the trouble when you look on these platforms like X, or when you look on X, right, and you see all of the media that's being generated, right? It's an echo chamber for spiking fear and uncertainty in the heart of mankind, and it's done on purpose.
Yes,
it's done on purpose. Remember, before the internet and smartphones, humans were not developed. Our brains are not supposed to process all of these problems that are going on in every corner of the world. We're only supposed to know what we can see. We're only supposed to worry about what's within our physical environment. The smartphone has made our brains have to focus and worry about so much stuff that essentially is totally irrelevant. Yeah. You are your own government, if you think about it. Like, I am the government of Matt. Like, if I want to ignore all of the sort of things that are going on in the world, I can choose to do that. Because at the end of the day, if I can't see it with my own eyes, is it actually real?
Yes, that's a very
Is any of it actually real?
In the era of AI, this is the number one question.
But I mean, even with political uncertainty and everything that we have, I mean, like, what's true? I mean,
what is true?
I mean, what is actually
right?
The only thing that is true is your consumption of that content. That's true because you're consuming it. But is that content, and how is that being portrayed? How's it being?
Take this to another level. Is our world a hologram? You know, is this world a hologram? Feelings, touch, feel, the 5 senses that we have.
Yeah.
And this is another level of mind-blowing that we don't have time to get into.
Have you done a meditation before where you just stare at your hand for like 10 minutes?
No, I haven't. But
it starts to become like not your arm anymore. Yeah. You can meditate on your arm.
Oh, really?
And you can have you can separate yourself from your.
Oh, goodness.
You should try.
I should try this. Let's move on as we wrap up. Let's now fast forward to TaleTree and EXTOA. Mm-hmm. So what is that keeps you busy? What keeps you up at night? What are you doing in the recent days that keeps you up at night?
Yeah, so this is a really important thing because for me, it's never really been about the how and the what. It's always been about the why. And when I started this conversation with you, like, it started around education.
Right.
It started around forced academia, how I didn't fit into the system, how I felt information was being like drilled down into my brain and how I had to memorize this information. Whereas what I really cared about was critical thinking and curiosity and using my imagination to learn. I think that we have been in a creativity crisis for centuries. Education that creates the society that has enabled nations to thrive has caused many generations to sacrifice their creative superpower in pursuit of knowledge acquisition so that they can upskill themselves for purpose.
For purpose.
Okay.
To have a purpose, to have a job.
To have a job, to do human doings.
Yes.
But we're human beings. And for the first time in human history, now we have robots. Now we have artificial intelligence that can do all of the
Manual
jobs,
labor,
the automation that we have sacrificed for many generations, sacrifice our own creative superpower, our own innate creative superpower, right? So when we're born, all kids are creative geniuses. George Land produced a study because he worked for NASA, and you can Google this. Anybody can Google this, right? In 1969, he created a creativity test because he wanted NASA to hire more creative humans. And what he found was astonishing, that just 2 to 5% of 30-year-olds hold genius levels of creativity. Now that genius level of creativity is held on to by the few that reject the curriculum, right? But what he found amongst 5-year-olds who had yet to enter elementary school, the kindergarten kids, 3 to 5, that 98% of all 3 to 5-year-olds possess genius levels of creativity. So the huge statement, the huge result of this experiment was that creativity is taught. It's taught. So
it's either taught or you're taught to tap into frequencies that allow you to tap into creativity.
Yeah, and that's why the light of learning in most children is challenged through forced academia. We have this light which essentially goes off in our brain where we kind of give up.
We give up because money, time,
the light of learning it turns off.
It does.
So TaleTree is my way of trying to help these children retain
their creativity.
The creativity. And this isn't just for kids. This is for all ages. And how we do it is that TaleTree provides almost like a gymnasium for exercising the creative mind in a child. Meaning that like meditation, like weight training, like jogging, there's a side of the brain that traditional education curriculum doesn't exercise that needs to be exercised, and that is the creative curiosity, brainstorming, imagination piece, which the theoretical rote memorization curriculums turn off. So what we do at TaleTree is we hold creativity sessions for kids where kids work with AI companions, dreaming, so brainstorming, coming up with ideas, working on challenges, setting challenges for other kids, okay? Fostering and wiring and setting fire to this circuitry that we were born to act out, but is dumbed down through the world that unfortunately requires us to live in.
In summary of what you're saying, the question I have is, are we living in a creativity decline or creativity deficient pandemic?
I think,
or epidemic?
Yeah, so I think we've had a creativity crisis for forever. Okay, since the Industrial Revolution, right? I think that is a given, okay? But I think with artificial intelligence, taking the process of creativity away, which we can see in a lot of these tools and services, that instead of you actually doing it, you just give the AI a trigger. So you're the imagination trigger now. The AI will fast track your creativity. But the result can sometimes stifle you. It's great because it happens fast, but at the same time, it can potentially sort of make you a little lazy, which can actually affect the creativity. So you've got that journey. You've got that piece. Okay, that's one piece. The second piece is that big tech, the addiction to consume and constantly be inspired without taking action. We drown in inspirational content, but we don't do anything about it.
We bookmark, we like, but we're not doing.
Right, so yeah, we're not taking action, right? So that's another trouble, okay? It's all about drowning in consumption. We love like the dopamine rush of content, right? This is a really, really bad thing for kids. Then you have the education system, which is outdated and it needs huge change and it needs to, you know, reinvent itself. The problem is there's 192 countries in the world. They all have different legacy systems. They have history. They have a lot of pride in their education system, and it's very, very tough. But we are in the most incredible period of disruption around education, which is why I tell people this is a space to be in right now. Like entrepreneurship around education, future of work, future of purpose. This is the place where you really want to be putting your time, because those that solve these problems are going to be in incredible positions for the future. So TaleTree, I believe, is about helping children maintain creativity as they get older, so they don't lose that natural born spark. Because when you have and you understand your creativity that lies within you, you find your calling in life, you find your purpose, you're more vulnerable, you're more open. It leads to better collaboration. Remember, traditional education puts everyone against each other. It's a pyramid. It's like, who's going to be the best, right? So like, if there's 30 kids in a class and there's only one at the top, that means you're going to have, it's like a pecking order. It's like a rug pull, basically, for like who's the best. You know, the person at the top, and you've got the person at the bottom, and it's like the person at the top gets the best job, the person at the bottom gets the worst job, but they're still jobs, right? You're still
doing,
you're still
human doers.
Still doing. So, I mean, like, so TaleTree is about cultivating that creative superpower and about kindness, compassion, empathy, because the offset of being creative is service rather than self, because this modern world puts us against one another and makes us a lot more selfish.
So here's one thing. I've got an interesting take on this, and I'm playing devil's advocate, as I always do, as I do in academia. We need doers. We need janitors. We need secretaries. We need people who clean after us.
Yes, we do.
That's what their role is for. Some of these people, some brand them as NPCs, non-player content, because they're not really relevant. And I don't want to use that word in real human beings. But it's a reference. We need them, because if everyone was an entrepreneur and everyone owned a Lamborghini, who would create the Lamborghini? Who would create the buildings? Who would create roads? Who would create infrastructure?
I totally get that.
There has to be discrimination. There has to be.
It's more about purpose, okay, than being at the top or the bottom. TaleTree enables, within a global community, for kids to work together rather than in opposition of one another, find their tribe and collaborate. We don't teach that, you know, our grading system comes from something that is not based on
breaking out
actually output. It's you know, we reward kids for listening, for kindness, for encouraging one another. It's not just about output.
True.
I believe a future where, you know, currency and like reward comes from things other than being better than someone else. It comes from encouraging and supporting. So I agree what you say about we need the janitors, but by the way, the robots will do most of that.
Yeah, of course.
So that's
they're going to have a big struggle.
Because nobody, it's like, if you find purpose in anything, being a janitor, for example, or I mean, that's wonderful. Exactly.
Be the best garbage cleaner.
Because you can. It's all about finding purpose. It's all about finding peace and happiness. You know, it's not always about doing the most important and complex things in life. It's about your relationship with what you do and how it makes you feel, and how you feel like you're contributing to something greater than yourself, and how you are of service to the world around you. It doesn't matter how much money you have. If you're lonely, it makes no difference. People want to be of service. And I often think about like self-help and how we are drowning in our desire to be the best
But
versions of ourselves. But actually, can we not find so much healing in service?
fair enough. Fair points there. How do you reconcile how do you reconcile this with people with Down syndrome or monks? I know I'm going into the extreme. Monks don't even work. They literally, I don't know how they make money, how they probably donations, but they just live a hugely super peaceful life. And people with Down syndrome are some of the most happiest people on earth. How do you reconcile that?
I reconcile that in a way that it's very, very hard for us to quantify what fortune equates to or what luck equates to. I think every human being has challenges in life. I think that whether you're the prince in a royal family, whether you're a famous pop star, whether you're the trust fund heir to a billionaire, I think that presents challenges, depression, all kinds of problems. If you go out to, like with TaleTree, we're on a mission to educate kids who don't have access to education, kids that can't even spend 8 hours a day at school because they have to support their parents through labor. And also they don't have shoes to even walk to school, right? We're on a mission to, because TaleTree is like this protocol where any kid anywhere in the world can access. It's AI driven, and it generates financial rewards for kindness and creativity. We're building this entire thing right now. I just think that a lot of people in different parts of the world are equally, if not more happy, depending not on their financial or material circumstances, but based on other factors like community. So you talk about like disabled people, a child with Down syndrome, right? They smile a lot.
They smile a lot.
They don't have the pressures and the challenges that people who are under great intense pressure to achieve, maybe through generational curse, maybe their father was extraordinarily successful and they're trying to find a path that can somewhat even compete or challenge the achievements of their parents. Yet the world looks at them as being spoiled and having lucked out. I think life in general is about purpose. It's about overcoming challenges. Life is not a bed of roses, and it's not meant to be. We're supposed to go for this life. We're supposed to understand that whoever we are, wherever we're from, we can make the best of it. And happiness is derived from anything but what we think.
Freedom.
Often. You can. It's incredible, really.
Incredible.
Where happiness can come from. But as I say, if you look at a lot of kids in Africa who don't even have access to clean drinking water, they smile.
They still smile.
Their family, they rely on basic needs, but it's a different standard of misery.
Yes.
Living in Manhattan, working in finance, stressed out of your mind, 18 hours a day, 7 days a week, being an entrepreneur, being burdened with that, because I truly don't believe entrepreneurship is something that everybody does. There are this entrepreneur, glamorous. There's this glamorous idea where people,
entrepreneur wannabes,
I think, take on this sort of role of being an entrepreneur and like to call themselves entrepreneurs, and good luck to them for that. But I know very well that when I hear the word entrepreneur, I want to run for the hills, because it is a brutal experience. True entrepreneurship is
lonely, is painful, is suffering.
It's so hard.
Yeah.
Nobody wants to be an entrepreneur. I think an entrepreneur is somebody that is unfortunately in a position where they have no choice, because they simply don't fit into
anything
status quo, and they have this sort of brain that is wired to embark upon crazy things, and it's the only way they can sort of, you know,
Have purpose.
get their creativity into the world. But really, it's
Wow.
it's a very, 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 very hard place to be.
Nice.
Entrepreneurship.
Fascinating conversation. We do have to wrap up, but this, honestly, I could go on, but we do have to wrap up. But you know, I really want to summarize education, like what you said. Education should be for good use, for good behavior, kindness, curiosity to try new things, critical thinking, emotional learning, emotional intelligence, and ultimately purpose. Your relationship with what you're doing is what gives you purpose. So I love this. I love what you said. Final remarks. What would you like to say to the audience? Whether it's to do with TaleTree, to do with the meaning of life, just final remarks as we close this podcast.
Final remarks I would like to say is that if you have a dream, pursue it. Don't think about what might not happen. Don't think about the fears. Fear is part of life. Fear is something that motivates us to move one step in front of the other. But once you start embracing fear and going through rings of fire, you'll get used to that. You'll train a muscle and you'll train yourself and you'll position yourself for greatness. Believe in yourself, and anything's possible. And
Amen.
Think big, break it down into bite-sized chunks, be accountable to yourself.
Amen. Can I just listen to you every day? Like in the morning, can I just listen to these words every day?
It's important. And don't forget, you are what you think you are.
Yes.
I am. Whatever comes after that is exactly who you are.
Let's not go down the path of pronouns, but we will leave it there.
And we didn't even talk about my Dubai project, so that'll have to be the next time.
We can have a round two, for sure. Matt, I just want to say thank you for your time.
Pleasure.
You got really deep. We got into your life. You got vulnerable with me. I appreciate that. So for those who are watching, if they're interested in getting in touch with you, what's the best way they can get in touch with you?
On Twitter or X, sorry, Elon, at Matt Hagger. You can follow me on X. I'm Matt Hagger on all social platforms, or matt@hagger.co is my personal email.
Great. Amazing. Thank you again for your time. Appreciate it. We'll leave all the links in the description, and we'll hope that this inspires people to go after their dreams and challenge the current status quo of education. Thank you again for watching. Hope you found this insightful. Please do subscribe and keep following our page. Do check out Matt's profile. We'll leave all the links in the description. Thank you again. I'm Adel, the host, and I will see you next time. Cheers.
Web3.tv